We read in this week's Parsha of the Jewish people's introduction to the man, the remarkable food that would come down from heaven to sustain them while they lived in the desert. And the pasuk says, "Vayomru ish elachiv manhu," and one said to another, "What is it?" Ki lo yadu mahu, because they didn't know what it was. What a strange pasuk to have in the Torah. For all the different types of conversations that are not fully listed in the Torah, we have to connect the dots, or it's not important for us to know exactly what was said. They needed to say to each other, what is it? Because they didn't know what it was. It's a very interesting phrasing in the Torah. The next phrase, Vayomer Moshe Alehem, Moshe said to them, Hu halechem asher nasar Hashem lochem lochla. This is the bread, the food that God gave you to eat. And the Sfas Emes says regarding this pasuk that the Torah is conveying a major, major message about faith in God. Of course, so much is learned in general about our perspective towards God providing for our needs by the story of the Jews' existence in the desert in general and the receiving of the man in particular. Says the Sfas Emes, one person would ask the other, what is this? And Moshe answered, the very fact that you don't know what it is, that you don't understand from where it came, that you really don't get the backdrop and it doesn't necessarily make sense to you, and it's not clear to you how it's come about. Hu halechem asher nasan Hashem lochem lochla. That's what God has given you. That's life. That's what it is to be helped along by God. We don't have to live in the desert to be helped along by God. All of us are being helped along by God. The greatest example, the most telling example, is the desert experience. Moshe Rabbeinu explains to them, and this is presumably, according to Sfas Emes, why it's mentioned in the Torah in the first place, that this lack of clarity as to what exactly this food is the ideal way to view everything we have in this world. God gives it to us. We don't quite understand it. I think this idea is on my mind a little bit more this week than it might be a normal week. Some of you may know the Rosenbaum family is in COVID quarantine currently, and Baruch Hashem, B'li Ayin Hara, we're extremely fortunate. There are people who are in serious situations, and they should all be well. Thank God, Baruch Hashem, we're okay. We're just in quarantine this week because we have COVID in the house. And it's so interesting because on the one hand, all of a sudden everything stops. You know, you were going to go here, you were going to go there, you had this appointment, you had that appointment, and all these plans have to change. And on the one hand, it's extremely disconcerting, but it's really amazing. And I'm sure many of you listening have had similar experiences. It's really amazing as you try to figure out the coming days and you try to backtrack to figure out who you have to tell what, the number of things that could have gone differently to be so much more complicated is remarkable. And that even when things happen, B'li Ayin Hara, thank God, not terribly earth-shattering, definitely not, but certainly inconveniencing. And then you look at it a little bit closer and you see the hand of God in this plan and the kindness of God in this plan. And then you realize to yourself, well, what did it mean that I was supposed to do this, or I was supposed to do that? What do we know? And in a sense, that's what the Sfas Emes' point is. He says, he has a line, it's a beautiful line. The Sfas Emes says, Ki tachlis hayediyah shelo neida. The goal of knowing is getting to the point where we recognize that we don't know. And with Hashem's help, the more we have our eyes open in our lives, and the more we realize how many things are only by His goodness. And if we were only left to our own devices, it wouldn't work out just so. The more we learn, the more we realize that we have so much more to learn. Have a wonderful Shabbos and be well.